October 15, 1987. Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. Gunfire erupted at a routine government meeting. When the smoke cleared, President Thomas Sankara lay dead at 37 years old. His assassins, his own presidential guards, his betrayer, his best friend and deputy Blaise Compaoré, his crime, being too good of a leader. This is the story of the African president who dared to dream too big. Thomas Isidore Nile Sankara was born on December 21, 1949, in Yako, a small town in what was then called Upper Volta. His father was a World War II veteran and a devout Catholic. His mother came from a family that had resisted French colonial rule. From both parents, Thomas inherited something powerful, a sense of justice and the courage to fight for it. Upper Volta had gained independence from France in 1960, but independence on paper meant little. The country remained one of the poorest on earth. Most people couldn't read. Most children died before their 5th birthday. The government was corrupt, serving French interests rather than their own people. And the name itself, Upper Volta, was a colonial leftover, a name imposed by outsiders. Young Thomas excelled in school and was sent to Madagascar for military training. There, in the early 1970s, he witnessed a socialist revolution firsthand. Students and workers rose up against a corrupt government. Thomas watched, learned, and returned home transformed. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was a revolutionary. Back in Upper Volta, Sankara rose through the military ranks. But unlike other officers who enriched themselves, Sankara lived modestly and spoke constantly about the people's suffering. He taught himself to play guitar and wrote songs about revolution. He jogged every morning through the capital's poorest neighborhoods, talking with people, listening to their struggles. Officers thought he was strange. The people loved him. In 1983, a power struggle erupted within the government. Sankara, by then a popular captain, was briefly arrested. The people took to the streets demanding his release. His friend Blaise Compaoré led a group of soldiers in a coup to free him. On August 4, 1983, at just 33 years old, Thomas Sankara became president. What happened next would shock the world. Sankara's first act as president was to rename the country. Upper Volta would die. Burkina Faso would be born, land of upright people in the local languages. The name itself was a declaration of dignity, of self-definition, of breaking from the colonial past. Then he went after corruption with a fury that terrified the elite. He cut all government salaries, including his own, reducing the president's pay from over $12,000 a month to just $450. He sold off the government's fleet of Mercedes-Benz and made the cheapest car available, the Renault 5, the official vehicle for ministers. He banned first-class air travel for government officials. The savings would go to the people. When foreign diplomats arrived for state dinners, they were shocked. Instead of expensive imported food and wine, Sankara served local millet, local water, and dishes cooked by local women. "He who feeds you controls you," Sankara would say. Burkina Faso would feed itself. But Sankara's revolution went deeper than symbolism. He launched the most ambitious vaccination campaign in African history. In just 2 weeks, his government vaccinated 2.5 million children against meningitis, yellow fever, and measles. International health organizations called it impossible. Sankara made it happen. He declared war on hunger. He promoted local production, local consumption, refusing international food aid that created dependency. Burkina Faso would grow its own food. Within 4 years, wheat production tripled. The country approached food self-sufficiency. He launched a literacy campaign. Within 3 years, the literacy rate jumped from 13% to over 73%. Schools were built in every village. Education was declared a right, not a privilege. He planted 10 million trees in 1 year to fight desertification. The Sahara Desert was advancing south, swallowing farmland. Sankara mobilized the entire nation. Students, soldiers, farmers, everyone planted trees, 10 million trees, in 1 year. But perhaps his most radical act was empowering women in a deeply patriarchal society. Sankara banned female genital mutilation. He banned forced marriages. He promoted women to high positions in government and the military. He required men to go to the market to cook, to do household chores, work traditionally seen as women's domain. The revolution cannot triumph, he said, without the genuine emancipation of women. He encouraged women to speak, to organize, to lead. For the first time in the country's history, women's voices were heard in the halls of power. Conservative tribal chiefs were furious. The religious establishment condemned him. Sankara didn't care. The revolution would continue. And continue it did, into the most dangerous territory of all, challenging France. France, the former colonial power, still controlled West African economies through a colonial currency, the CFA franc. France still owned the region's resources. France still decided who ruled and who was deposed. For decades, African leaders who challenged French control ended up dead or in exile. Sankara stood before the Organization of African Unity and said what no African leader had dared say publicly. The debt was a trap. The West had loaned money to corrupt dictators who stole it, and now they demanded that the poor repay what they never received. We cannot pay the debt, Sankara declared. If we pay, we will die. If we don't pay, we will die. So let us not pay and die with dignity. The speech electrified the developing world. It terrified Western powers. Sankara visited Harlem and spoke at the United Nations, calling himself a comrade to all oppressed people everywhere. He met with Fidel Castro and Muammar Gaddafi, embracing leaders the West considered enemies. He refused to align with either the United States or the Soviet Union, maintaining what he called ideological independence. Back home, he redistributed land from chiefs to peasants. He built roads, railways, housing. He turned a presidential palace into a museum and lived in a modest clay house. He rode a bicycle to work. He wore simple cotton uniforms made in Burkina Faso, refusing imported luxury clothing. Everything he did was designed to prove a point. Africa could be self-reliant. Africa could be dignified. Africa did not need to beg. But revolutions make enemies. The tribal chiefs, stripped of their land and privileges, turned against him. The religious leaders, angered by his secularism and women's rights agenda, turned against him. Conservative military officers, resentful of his discipline and anti-corruption measures, turned against him. And most dangerously, France turned against him. French President François Mitterrand saw Sankara as a threat to French influence in West Africa. If Burkina Faso succeeded in breaking free, other countries would follow. France's post-colonial empire would collapse. Neighboring Ivory Coast, led by the pro-French dictator Félix Houphouët-Boigny, also feared Sankara's example spreading to his own oppressed population. By 1987, Sankara knew he was in danger. In speeches, he spoke of martyrdom, of sacrifice, of dying for the revolution. Friends urged him to purge potential traitors from his government. He refused. A true revolutionary, he said, seeks to transform people, not eliminate them. His greatest mistake was trusting his best friend. Blaise Compaoré had been with Sankara from the beginning. They had trained together, fought together, seized power together. Sankara made Compaoré his deputy, his second-in-command. He trusted him completely. What Sankara didn't know was that Compaoré had been meeting secretly with French officials, with Ivory Coast's president, with conservative military officers. A plot was forming. Sankara would have to die. October 15, 1987, started as an ordinary Thursday. Sankara was scheduled to attend a routine meeting of the National Revolutionary Council. He arrived with a few bodyguards. The meeting began. Then, without warning, heavily armed soldiers surrounded the building. Gunfire erupted. Sankara's bodyguards were killed. Sankara himself was hit multiple times. Witnesses say he was still alive when soldiers approached. One of them, on Compaore's orders, shot him in the head at close range. 12 of Sankara's closest allies died with him that day. Their bodies were quickly buried in unmarked graves. Compaore immediately declared himself president. He announced that Sankara had died in an accident during a confused power struggle. Almost no one believed him. Almost no one dared to speak. Within hours, the revolution was being dismantled. Compaore reversed Sankara's policies. He reconciled with France. He welcomed back the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. The government fleet of Renault 5s was replaced with Mercedes-Benzes. Foreign aid resumed, along with the debt payments Sankara had refused. The revolution was dead. For 27 years, Sankara's body remained in an unmarked grave. Compaore ruled as a dictator, serving French interests just as the leaders before Sankara had done. Speaking Sankara's name was dangerous. His image was banned. His speeches were forbidden. They tried to erase him from history. But you cannot kill an idea. Around the world, young people discovered Sankara's speeches. They watched videos of him denouncing imperialism, championing the poor, fighting for dignity. In Africa, in the Caribbean, in Latin America, in the Black diaspora, Thomas Sankara became a revolutionary icon. Murals appeared on walls from Dakar to Havana. His face joined Che Guevara's as a symbol of resistance. While revolutionaries as individuals can be murdered, Sankara had said, you cannot kill ideas. In 2014, the people of Burkina Faso finally rose up. They burned down the parliament. They chased Compaore into exile. The dictator who had ruled for 27 years fled to Ivory Coast in the middle of the night, just as he had feared Sankara might do to him decades earlier. In 2015, Sankara's body was exhumed. Forensic experts confirmed what everyone already knew: he had been executed. 12 bullet holes. Murder, not an accident. A trial finally opened, but justice remains incomplete. Compaore lives comfortably in Ivory Coast, protected by the same French interests that helped him seize power. But Sankara's legacy lives on. Today, Burkina Faso struggles with many of the same problems Sankara tried to solve: poverty, corruption, foreign interference. But his memory inspires a new generation. Young Africans wear t-shirts with his face. They quote his speeches. They demand the kind of leadership he embodied: fearless, incorruptible, visionary. Sankara proved that it was possible. For 4 years, he showed what an African country could achieve with honest leadership, with sacrifice, with revolutionary courage. He vaccinated millions. He fed his people. He educated children. He empowered women. He stood up to the most powerful forces on earth and refused to bow. And they killed him for it. Because the greatest threat to an unjust system is not violence or chaos. The greatest threat is a good example. Thomas Sankara was that example, and that's why he had to die. But his words still echo across the continent and beyond. His vision still burns in the hearts of those who believe another world is possible. His life still teaches us that change requires courage, that justice requires sacrifice, and that true leadership means serving the people, not oneself. Thomas Sankara was president of Burkina Faso for only 4 years, but in those 4 years, he proved that Africa did not need charity. Africa did not need dictators. Africa needed leaders who loved their people more than they loved power. He was 37 when they killed him. 37 years old, with so much more he could have done. But even in death, he accomplished more than most leaders do in a lifetime. I speak on behalf of all those who seek the truth, Sankara once said, And I speak for those whose voices have been drowned out. His voice can no longer be drowned out. If you enjoyed this documentary on Thomas Sankara, please subscribe to Deep Files for more untold African stories. Like this video, share it, and let me know in the comments which African leader you'd like to see next. Your support helps us bring these hidden histories to light. Thank you for watching.